The fine art of Cory Trepanier has inspired and engaged thousands with the beauty of our lands, waters, and skies. His interaction with his subject through extensive exploration transforms his canvases into compelling oil paintings. His quickly rising profile has been aided by the multifaceted approach taken to his career and has gained him extensive exposure on television, radio, print, and the internet. Cory has also applied his creative talents to the production of his own television documentaries and through public speaking. Through these ongoing efforts, a vast audience is becoming aware of his work and the subjects he paints, making his name synonymous with our Canadian landscape and the exploration of it. It is my pleasure to welcome Cory to the show. Cory, welcome to Art on Air.
Oh, thank you so much, Daisy. Pleasure to be here.
Now, you have more than just vision on canvas in the works here. Yet before we get into the greater vision you're projecting, can you share with us your own personal roots in your life as an artist and where it began?
Well, without taking up too much time, I guess I will go back to childhood briefly to say that I started always having an interest in art. The biggest challenge as a 7 or 8-year-old I remember is wanting to draw something. And I'd gather up pencils and papers, but then my biggest challenge was not knowing what to draw. So I'd always be asking my mom for ideas. That part of it is not a problem anymore. It's just finding enough time. But I've always enjoyed drawing and painting since I was young.
Now, with your process of creating an original oil painting, how do you approach that?
Well, it really developed into a direct response to what I see and what I feel when I'm exploring outdoors. For about 10 years prior to just painting my own work, I was doing commercial art. I went to Sheridan College and I graduated, and for about a decade did airbrush illustrations for ad agencies and magazines. But then to get away from that, I would take my canvas and my paints with me and just go outside and start painting on location. It was really something for me that was an attempt to bring a greater sense of life to the larger paintings in the studio. If I could spend time harnessing some of that on location, I could bring it back. Well, the result was that I fell in love with the process of actually going out there and hiking around and exploring until I find something that would connect with me on some kind of emotional level, and that's when I would begin my painting, and that's how it really continues to this day. Anywhere I go, I try not to have preconceived ideas, but more put myself in positions and places and try to stay out there long enough that things can happen and nature can, give me a glimpse of light, maybe even if it's only momentary. So hopefully, I come across something that makes my jaw drop, and then I just have to start painting.
So you left commercial art in 2001 to pursue the Coast to Canvas project. Now, what inspired that?
Well, actually, that was it was kind of a nice tie-in because I was commissioned by the Ministry of Natural Resources here in Ontario to create a painting promoting the coastlines of Georgian Bay and Lake Superior. It was at the time designated as a heritage coast, and they wanted a painting that they could turn into a poster to show others what it's like up there. And so I took 2 weeks and went up that way by boat and by canoe and with my wife and one of our daughters, and went and checked it all out firsthand. And it was the first time I had ever had the opportunity or taken the time to see Lake Superior for myself. And I think that's where it really got going. It was such an incredible coastline, as well as Georgian Bay, the many places that I'd never seen before, that I just wanted to find a way to put a collection of work together that could do justice to this incredible region. And I realized that would require more than a weekend. And so I came up with this idea, my wife and I, as we came back down Highway 69, of spending about a month in each season with our girls up there. And that unfolded in the fall of 2001 into 2002, and followed up with an exhibition of about 33 paintings that went up and down the Northern Ontario and down this way at the Dufferin County Museum. And it was a fantastic opportunity. It really gave me the opportunity to break away from the commercial art that I'd been doing on a freelance basis to focus on my own work.
Now, not only has this inspired beautiful paintings, but you're also recording and documenting your experience in journals, in film, and video, and how are you bringing all this together and developing it?
Well, I was always inspired by other people's explorations, and every once in a while I go to different websites of people who are, climbing mountains or whatever the case may be, and I found it interesting to sort of be able to, escape the studio for a little bit here and there. And historically, of course, that whole aspect of exploring has been deeply rooted in Canadian history. And so that, for me, has been something that seemed to marry together well with what I was doing as an artist. And it was also my hope to show people some of these incredible places, perhaps in a way that they had not seen it before, through the eyes of a painter, somebody who's really exploring its beauty. And so I started to do take some of these trips that I've been doing and try to share while in the field through technology, using the web and so on, and satellite phones. Hopefully, give people a taste of what it's like out there, and hopefully create some greater awareness for our own backyard and what we have.
And preserving Canada's natural beauty inspired visions of our land. And can you tell us about that project?
No, sure. This is a kind of an outgrowth of the time that I've spent outdoors. And, the more time you spend in a lot of these incredible wilderness places, initially you're impacted by the vast beauty that's out there, and that's what I go for. But the more time you spend out there enjoying that, you start to see, the underbelly, a little bit of some of the issues that are taking place that are threatening these places. What comes to mind specifically is up in Lake Superior, just outside of Wawa, a trap rock mine that has been in the works for some time, which is aiming to basically blast the shoreline of Lake Superior by an American company coming across by boat and taking the rock back to build superhighways. And as much as I'm a realist in that we need to have natural resources, extraction, it's a base of people's livelihoods. There are situations and there are places that too important for that to happen to, and that we need to preserve. And this is one of those cases that really made me more aware of stuff that's going on all across the country. And it's a struggle as an individual to try to say, well, how can I possibly make any kind of difference? How can I do anything as one person out of one pocket to try to make any change? And so I kind of look back for the last decade or so of painting wild places and discovered that, I've got a lot of art, and there's a number of people who've become familiar with my work through films and stuff as well, that perhaps the time is right to use some of this to give back. And so Visions of Our Land is one small step in sort of giving back to the land. It's using my work in the form of fine art cards to help other people share the beauty of Canada through my work, then have $1 from each of these cards go back to organizations that I've researched and some that I've been aware of for some time, like the Nature Conservancy Canada or CPAWS, the Canadian Parks and Wilderness Society, and be able to use this to contribute back to these organizations on an ongoing basis for years to come. Eventually, my goal would be to actually have Visions of Our Land become nonprofit. Now, I'd love it to get to that point, if at some point in the future, I can be in a position to do so. But for now, it's a starting point, and it hopefully achieves those goals as we go forward.
Well, I think it's a real wonderful way to build a relationship with the painting on a new level. It's not just a picture for the wall, that it actually has a story to tell about our earth and our country and what's happening here in our home. And then having people connect with that and see that more intrinsically with the help of your work. So I think you're doing a great job, and I think it's definitely going to build as we all connect with what you're doing.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, well, and I appreciate the efforts you're making. It's good that we have explorers like you out there, because exploring and reporting back to us and letting us see, what's really happening.
Well, it is a privilege to do. It's an awful lot of work, of course. It's a huge amount of effort and risk and all that kind of stuff. But for me, it's something I enjoy immensely. So it just sort of fits in naturally. I don't think I could just sit in the studio and paint day after day without getting out there and being inspired firsthand with the subject that I want.
What is your next trip?
Well, I just finished a major trip this summer, which is part of our multi-year Into the Arctic project. This was started in 2006 with the goal to create a body of original paintings from across Canada's north. In 2006, you may be aware, I traveled with my wife and our 2 daughters, who always try to incorporate the family as much as possible. It's such a great experience for me on so many levels. They were 7 and 11, and we left Caledon for 2.5 months, went to the Western Canadian Arctic. Since then, I've done 2 other Arctic trips in my attempt to geographically cover as much of the Arctic as possible. One a month on Baffin